Hello, and welcome back to Soul Search Sunday with Johnny Tiger. The date is December 6th, 2020. Back in 2015, me and my good friend Ian and Darren, we took a trip to my homeland of Taiwan to gather some much needed footage for the upcoming Johnny Tiger documentary. While we were there, we were very well received by my countrymen. People thought it was so cool that I just recently won the first ever silver medal in the self-defense division for Canada, and that it was so cool that I was now well on my way to have my very own documentary made. People thought it was so cool that I did this and I did that. So during the trip, I got booked for a few motivational speeches uh, along the way at uh, elementary school and high school. Uh, got some dinner and celebrations with family and friends, and I even received uh, a family heirloom from my aunt, who was still alive at the time. She has since passed away, unfortunately. But one of the things that we did while we were there in Taiwan was uh, Darren, Ian, and myself, with my mother, we went back to my mom's farm where she grew up, where a lot of her side of the family still live even today, to visit her side of the family. While we were there, this one experience touched me the deepest. I remember after lunch on our first when we first arrived there, we had lunch, a very big meal. So a lot of people would call that a feast, like a 12 course, 15 course meal. Uh, After the feast, my aunt and my mom each walk on one side of me, and the whole family went to pay respect at the urn or uh, the room where my ancestors' urns and plaques are being kept. Now, a lot of you might not know this, but in a lot of traditional Taiwanese families, Chinese family, uh, they if they cremate their uh, people, or even if they bury their people, they'll either keep the urn with the ashes in it, or they'll set up a plaque with a person's name on it, and they'll have a special room dedicated for these plaques and urns. And this is what akin to the room of ancestor, the room of worship. And this is where you go and pay your respect, rather than having to go to the cemetery or wherever the urn uh, may be kept. So there is a room as such uh, at my mom's ancestral home. So I remember walking in there, my mom on one side of me, my aunt on the other side of me. We went in there to pay respect to my grandparents. When I was growing up, my grandparents and I didn't talk much. They were very old, and to a child, spoiled child like me, they were very strange. They didn't speak my language. They spoke primarily uh, Taiwanese dialect and a lot of Japanese because they came from that generation where Taiwan was still recovering from Japanese occupation. They didn't speak Mandarin. Now, when I was little, I didn't speak anything but Mandarin because that's the only thing we were allowed to speak in school. So you can imagine, on one side, we had my grandparents, they were old, old-fashioned, and they didn't speak Mandarin. On the other side, there's me, young, spoiled, blind, and I didn't speak anything but Mandarin. So I couldn't communicate with them. They couldn't communicate with me. So I didn't get to know them that well. They didn't get to know me that well. I think they loved me because my mom told me they did. My mom told me they always sent birthday gift. My mom told me they always asked about me. My mom said they always said nice things about me, but I didn't know it from them. I only heard it from her. I didn't like to go visit them because going to visit my grandparents was basically spending the whole day on the farm, no air conditioning, no video game, and a whole bunch of people there that were old and speaking languages that I couldn't understand. It was boring, it was dirty, it was uncomfortable. So I didn't like to go visit them. But standing there in the room of worship, the room of ancestors, in front of their plaques, I heard both my mom and my aunt say their prayers, and then my mom said, "Mom, Dad, Johnny is here. He is home, and he is grown up, and he is someone you can be proud of. I hope you are happy." And I felt so sad that I wasn't even there when they passed away. I never got to see them for the last time, and I wondered if they were here now, would they really be proud of what I have done? I didn't get to meet my grandfather on my father's side because he passed away before I was born. I did, however, meet my grandmother on my father's side, but similar to the experience with my mother's parents, me and my paternal grandmother didn't see much of each other. Again, I couldn't understand her. She could barely understand me. I was there at her funeral, but I remember I couldn't even cry. I was 5 years old. I remember all the time when I was growing up, a lot of my relatives got mad at me, talked badly about me, because they remember that I didn't cry at grandmother's funeral. I was the cold-blooded kid. I was the disrespectful kid. But most of them don't understand that to a 5-year old, the concept of life and death was very murky. And this was an old lady that I barely ever come in contact with. I wanted to cry. I really did when I was 5 years old at the funeral. I really tried. Uh, if someone would have told me that all you have to do is put some hot sauce in your hand and wipe it on your eyes and to get some tears, I would have done it because it was embarrassing. I was desperately needing to cry because I knew people were getting mad at me. But this grandmother that I didn't cry for, this grandmother that I didn't know much about, made a prophecy. Apparently, when I was going blind when I was 3 years old, my father was devastated. He was very sad and very depressed. And my grandmother said to him at the time, my grandmother said, I know how you feel. You feel that this child is going to be disabled and be saddled with an incurable disease for the rest of his life. But you need to realize that out of all the kids you have, this will be the one kid that you end up depending on. This will be the only kid that will amount to anything. She said that when I was losing my eyesight when I was 3 years old. Whether she said it because she really had a feeling or not, maybe she said it just to make my dad feel better about me losing my eyesight. The fact is, of all my siblings, I'm the only one who finished a degree. Of all my father's children, I am the only person who still, to this day, despite our differences, call him regularly, to talk to him, to listen to him, to let him get things off his chest. Of all the kids that he had, I'm the only one who have shared in the most of the things that he used to do when he was younger. Maybe that wouldn't be good enough for my grandmother. Maybe she meant that I would be the one kid that makes the most money. Well, if that's what she was looking for, she would be totally wrong because I don't make hardly any money and poor as a church mouse. And as far as finance go, my parents think I'm just an outright failure. But if we set finance aside, she was right. And I wonder if she was still here today, would she be satisfied that her prophecy has, in a very indirect way, came true? When I was in high school, I spent 2 years, my grade 7, grade 8, in Taiwan before coming back to finish the rest of my schooling in Canada. Before coming back, before leaving my relatives and friends, everyone I knew, my friends and teachers got together and made me a recording on a cassette tape. I still have that tape today, tucked away somewhere safe. On this tape is my awkward little teenage friend bidding me farewell, wishing well wishes, and the much more articulated teachers, much more uh, well spoken teachers, each giving me their well wishes. And I remember of all these recordings of well wishes, goodbyes, fond memories, was one message from, uh, I guess what I would say that my homeroom teacher. Here in Canada, I don't know about the rest of the world. You have, when you go to school, you have math classes, English classes, but you have a homeroom, and your homeroom teacher is one teacher that's going to be the person you report to and person that's more or less in charge of whatever you do in school. Well, in Taiwan, we have that too. So my homeroom teacher was this uh, tyrant that she was. I'm not even kidding you. She was scary. She was not easy to talk to. She hit people all the time. And yeah, back then it was expected for teachers to hit students. And every day when we went to school, she would open her class. The first class was taken up by her hitting people that she believed needed to be hit. She was a fearsome, fearsome individual that even male teachers were afraid of her. I never believed she liked me. In fact, I believe she thought that I was a spoiled brat from a rich family that somehow always managed to wiggle through loopholes in her rules, that I was someone who deserved to be punished, someone who should be punished more, but somehow always wiggle out of it. But her message on this tape touched me the deepest. She said, Johnny, teacher have not talked with you much. There are a lot of things that you do teacher doesn't like. I'm going, but I'm translating this more or less direct but that's basically how she worded it. She spoke in a kind of a third person uh, point of view, and she said, "Teacher have seen you done a lot of good things. Teacher have seen you try really hard, but you have such a long way to go. And before you leave, teacher want to say that she is proud to have had you in her class, and teacher wishes that one day you will become independent. One day you won't need to rely on your family. You won't need to rely on anybody. One day, teacher wish that you can learn to even cook for yourself. Maybe one day you can return to our country and make teacher scrambled egg for breakfast." In 2015, when Ian and Darren and I went back to Taiwan, I heard that teacher has passed away. That made me really sad because I so wanted to meet her and tell her, teacher, I will make you scrambled egg, I will make you steak and egg, I will make you lobster dinner. I know how to cook, I know how to be independent. What you told me to do has been done, and I have done much, much more. When I was 16 years old, I went through a period of time where I walked on the wrong side of the track, got mixed up with some bad company. I was sinking very, very low, both by society's standard and my personal standard, doing things that I'm not really proud of. And I remember this one very special lady coming to me one morning and told me, she said, I want you to go home. I want you to get out of this lifestyle. She said, I want you to go not because you're not good enough to be with us, not because you're blind, but I see so much more in you. You're not the same as us. You are meant for something way better than the rest of us. You shouldn't be here. So many years have gone by since that morning, and Many, many times I think I so want to meet her again and tell her thank you and tell her you were right. I made so much more of myself and I am better than the person I thought I was. There's an old Chinese poem that I no longer remember how the first two lines goes, but I'll never forget the last two lines. It goes, the child is ready to make the parents smile, but the parents are no longer here. The tree is ready to sing with the rhythm of the wind. The tree is ready to sing with the rhythm of the wind, but the wind no longer comes. I'll never forget this two lines because maybe to some people it's a concept, maybe to some people it's just a beautiful poetry, but to me, I feel the impact of these words whenever I think of all these people that I wish so much that they can be here for me to say these things to them. Thank you so much for checking out today's Soul Search Sunday. We'll be back again tomorrow for Music Monday. For now, stay safe and have a good night.